Good morning to you all and welcome for the Talk the Book program of AP State Council of Higher Education. And before we start today's book review, AP State Council of Higher Education wishes you all a happy Vijayadashmi. So today's book review, we have with us Dr. K. Sandhya, former Director of Postgraduate Studies and Research of Maristella College, Autonomous, Vijayawada. Dr. Sandhya is a PhD from Acharya Nagarjuna University and has teaching experience of more than 40 years. And her area of specialization is American literature. But she has lots of interests with reference to comparative literature, contemporary literature, women's writings in particular, English language teaching, phonetics and linguistics, translation and creative writing. She has been awarded the Best Teacher Award for the year 2007 by the AP State Government. And she was also the awardee of Enchanting News Award by Writers Corner and Fantasy B2017. And she is Master of Creative Impulse, awarded by Philosophic D Poetica in 2019. And she has also received an Award of Excellency by World Poetry Conference in June 2021. And she has a lot of publications, both in case of journals as well as she had co-authored, edited, and also published several books and the different analogies. In case of world literatures in English translation and Adhurika Andhra Angla Sahityallo Srivada Kavitva Dharanalu, which is in Telugu. And she has also penned Telugu Dalit Voices in English translation, a sample reading. And she has published Chants of Peace is another book. Chains by G.B. Prabhat, a diasporic dimensions in international peer-reviewed journals. And she has been the commentator and she has been associated with the All India Radio, maybe in different capacities. And today's book review is about a particular question to be answered. Can a woman live alone? Can a woman live alone and be happy, or does she always need a man to give meaning to her life? Now, this is a question to be pondered over in the present times. Maybe we will have a convincing answer to this question through this book review of today. The book is Ladies Coupe by Anita Nair, and the book reviewer is Dr. K. Sandhya. Over to you, madam.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Sri Rangam Garu. Good morning, all of you, and a very happy Vijayadashmi to everyone. On this auspicious day, where women power excels, I thought it's appropriate to take a book written by a woman writer, Anita Nair, about women issues and how women come out triumphantly and successfully, finally, after combating all the troubles, all the conflicts, all the challenges in their life. That's exactly the reason why I have chosen this book. Vijayadashmi, victory, and victory or empowerment or a widening of perspective and outlook in women's ideology, women's behavior, women's mindset. All these questions crop up. Let me introduce Anita Nair to you. Anita Nair is one of the eminent novelists in Indian writing in English. She makes her character suffer and enables them to come out of it. Her characters turn their weapons to fight. 1 minute, I'm sharing the screen with you for the PowerPoint. 1 second. This is the book Ladies Coupe by Anita Nair. There are different images on the cover pages, but since it's symbolic of the title, this has been chosen by Akshay as well as myself. To continue, Anita Nair states when Ladies Coupe is being argued as a novel on feminism or a work of feminism, she said, it's not exactly feminism. She is bringing out various outlooks by women. And she says, I'm not, quote, I'm not happy with the term feminism. It does not fit it, it's outdated. Secondly, the word feminism implies us training to be equal, to get equal with men, while what is important is to know that you are equal and you exercise that equality to experience that quality, knowing it is yours. Naturally, in Ladies Coupe, she talks about male and female dichotomy, and it is more a story of ladies who as human beings want to realize what they really require. The story of this novel is set in a railway compartment, and I have divided my talk like this. First, let's know something about the author, and then the structure of the novel, then the plot, then the themes, the characters, language used, symbolism, relevance, certain observations. So first, coming to her life and books, Anita Nair was born on 26 January 1966 in Kerala. And she has many novels to her credit. And famous among them are A Better Man, Mistress, and Lessons in Forgetting, and Ladies Coupe in 2001. She's also written poetry, essays, short stories, crime fiction, historical fiction, romance, and children's literature. And two of her novels, The Better Man and Ladies Coupe, have been translated into 21 languages. In 2002 appeared the collection of poems, Malabar Mind, and in 2003, Where the Rain is Born, Writings about Kerala, which is edited. The Puffin Book of Myths and Legends in 2004, a children's book on myths and legends. Nair has also edited Where the Rain is Born in 2003, and Adventures of Nonu, The Skating Squirrel, Living Next Door to Alice, and Magical Indian Myths, many more travelogues. And there's a play too, 9 Faces of Being. Her book, Cut Like Wound, introduced fictional character Inspector Gowda. The second book in the series, Chain of Custody, was published in 2015. Other works by Nair include The Lilac House and Alphabet Soup for Lovers. Her 6th novel, Idris, Keeper of the Light, is a historical and geographical novel about a Somalian trader who visited Malabar in 1659 AD. She's also written several audiobooks, including A Field of Flowers 2021 and Little Duck Girl, narrated by the famous cinema actor Prakash Raj. Twin Beds was voiced by Konkona Sen Sharma and Satyadeep Mishra, and she voiced the audiobooks Why I Kill My Husband and Satyr of the Subway. And she's many awards, and she's been recognized as one of the eminent women writers of not only India, but of the whole world. She has many awards, and we have a list of these awards here. We can simply have a glimpse at them. So 2012, She has got Kerala Sahitya Akademi Award. 2014, the Hindu Literary Prize shortlist for Idris Keeper of the Light. 2015, Global Ambassador for Women for Expo. 2017, Crossword Book Award, Jury Award, Children's category. And now coming to the structure. It's a novel in parts. 11 chapters it has, 10 plus 1 in fact. And the protagonist or the central character is Akhilandeshwari, the primordial force, the Adi Parashakti. And she is referred to as Akhila here. She's got her berth in the 11th compartment from the engine in S7. Please keep it in mind. It has 11 chapters and she has got her berth in 11th compartment in S7. Alternate chapters are titled, and the titleless chapters are about the central character, Akhila. Akhila's chapters are her point of views and thoughts. They alternate between the chapters of other 5 women. This helps the character of Akhila to think and to reflect about the life incidents she heard from her co-passengers. The last chapter is entitled Akhila Speaks, and it deals with Akhila's decisions in her life and the decisions she made finally after hearing and analyzing the life stories of the other 5 women, her co-travelers. The novel begins abruptly and ends abruptly. Maybe we can say it has an open ending. And there's a shift in narrative time frame. She moves from present to past, again to present. And these titleless chapters describe Akhila's life, intermittently weaving the fabric of life stories of other women. The character appearing at the end of the chapter begins the next chapter. Finally, Akhila speaks. Now, the titles given to alternate chapters are, number 1 is by Akhila herself. She tells us how she is in the railway station, waiting for her train, and how she observes other passengers, what's going on, and the sounds in the railway station. That's about the narrator and the central character. The second chapter is A Certain Age. It's about an elderly woman, Janaki Prabhakar, who has crossed her menopausal phase of life. Chapter 3 is again by Akhila, about Akhila. Chapter 4 is Go, Grandmother Go. Sheila Vasudevan narrates this. She is the youngest of all the passengers, a 14-year-old young girl studying 9th grade. Chapter 5 is once again by Akhila, about Akhila. Chapter 6 is Oil of Vitriol by Margaret Shanti, who is a chemistry teacher. Chapter 7 is again by Akhila, about Akhila. Chapter 8 is Afloat by Prabhadevi, who married Jagdish. Chapter 9 is about Akhila. Chapter 10 is Sister to Real Thing, Marikolantu. Marikolantu, she is known as Mari, and she is a substitute for many things, sister to the real thing. And chapter 11, finally, Akhila speaks, Akhila decides. Now, the plot, coming to the main story. We look at the central character, Akhilandeshwari, 45 years old, and she's single. And she has lost her father when she was 19. She had to shoulder the responsibilities of the family, and she was given a job on compassionate grounds in the income tax department. And she's never been allowed to live her own life. She was always the daughter, the sister, the aunt, the provider of the family, the substitute of her father. Until the day she gets herself a one-way train ticket to the seaside town of Kanyakumari. In the intimate atmosphere of the ladies' coupe, she gets to know her 5 fellow travelers. Riveted by their personal stories, Akhila begins to seek answers to the questions that has been the main question that has been haunting her all her life. Can a woman stay single and be happy? Or does she need a man to feel complete? Main theme is self-discovery from the subjugation of Indian male-dominated society. But in order to look deep into it, let's go through the plot in a little more detail. First, let's look at Akhila's character. She listens patiently to the ups and downs of her co-passengers and starts thinking of her own life without any meaning. And now she is 45, an age by which many women of her age settle their duties, including upkeeping the house, discharging their responsibilities to satisfy everyone. She loses her father, as I've told you earlier, in the prime of her life. And being the eldest child of the parents, she shoulders the responsibilities. She not only becomes the man of the house, but also loses her individual choices. She guides her brothers in their studies and career and also arranges their marriages. She has 2 brothers. One is Narsi and the second one is Narayan, and has a younger sister, Padma. All of them are married. The house is in order, but the members of the house have forgotten about Akhila's emotions and her emotional needs. She handles all burdensome responsibilities patiently and affectionately and efficiently, and she is allowed a bigger identity, and she loses her individual identity. She is not called by her name. She gets the treatment of either the akka or the older sister or the aunt. Even her mother used to care more for her other children than for Akhila. She used to call her Amadi. Akhila feels at war with emotions. The urges and desires in her deep body and heart try to awaken her. She suffers an identity crisis. The readers are touched to the core when she asks herself, so who was Akhilandeshwari? Did she exist at all? If she did, what was her identity? Did her heart skip a beat when she saw a mango tree studded with blossoms? Did the feel of rain on her bare skin set a line of goosebumps down her spine? Did she dream? Did she weep for no reason? She has a volley of questions whose answers she tries to find from the co-passengers who had seen more life and had experienced the basic realities of living with husband, children, household chores, mothers-in-law, and so on. Akhila's circumstances enable her to think that women could live by themselves and that marriage was unimportant. She wonders how her co-passengers, despite their settled lives, were living their lives marginally. Most of them had a vacuum in their lives. So when they share the stories very freely, because now they have a confirmation that they are not going to meet again in their lives, since it's a train journey, it's a transient kind of thing, and they may or may not meet again in their future. So they share very freely about their lives. Akila is curious to know about the experiences of being married and if there was any danger in living alone. So the first passenger, Janaki Prabhakar, the oldest of the lot, through a satisfied life, hints at the dissatisfaction which all human beings have at a certain age. Women, according to Janaki, are subordinate selves because she has a family and has a satisfied life. Still, she thinks women have certain failures in their lives. And she assured Sakila that a woman's role is to keep her family intact and to reach out to every member of the family. She finds herself at a certain age a victim of all sorts of taunts and derisions when she comes to help her daughter-in-law, Jaya, with her cesarean operation. And she feels very insecure and she gets humiliated and she decides to go back home with her husband and live her life with her husband, a typical Indian woman, traditionally reared. Now we'll come to the second character, Margaret Shanti. She has a sorrowful story to tell. A gold medalist in chemistry, she's drawn towards Ebenezer Paulraj, who persuades her to become a teacher. In fact, she wanted to do her PhD and get a doctorate awarded. They were in love for a short time and it culminates in a hasty marriage. And it literally becomes a torment later on for Margaret because constantly Ebenezer dominated her. And he was very indifferent to her and prevented her from becoming a mother. His love seems to be based on foundations of selfishness without understanding the impact of an abortion, and he forces her into it. She could not conceive again for a long time. Her injured self, along for revenge, it was brewing up in her. She was waiting to take revenge. And he was also waiting for a chance to humiliate her in front of her colleagues, rather in front of his coterie in school, since he is the principal and she is only a chemistry teacher, and his domineering personality has bullied even children, completely maiming their personalities and then giving them a kind of unpleasant feeling towards studies in school. There are many examples in the novel. So she decides to take her revenge and she wants to make him obese. So she tries her best to make him fat and to win his heart through two things. One is food and second one is sex. Finally, when he is physically not fit to move about, he had to be dependent on her. And then regularly, she has had to take him for checkups. And now he's totally a slave to her. And she thinks she has won. Now, Akila may not seem to be very convinced with what these women in the Coupe think about life. She establishes a common understanding to understand life from different perspectives. So she remembered the conflicts in her life. She had had many problems. After all, she is a human being. She is a woman. When she was young, she has had her desires, just like any other normal girl. When she was in the bus, when some man touched her, inadvertently or advertently, she enjoyed the touch. At the same time, she wanted to resist it. That is, there is a conflict between the morale and her own desires. Always a conflict going on in her mind and body. And then when the conductor notices that, he asks her to take a seat and sit in the bus. this unpleasant incident, she enjoys it. But when the conductor notices, he says, why don't you sit in a seat? Then she realizes the world has noticed what's happening to her. And she feels humiliated. No, this is some kind of what you say, she's at a war with her own emotions, or with the realities around, and with her frustrations, or with her physical desires, or the hormonal changes in her body, whatever. So now, because the conductor said, sit, she thought, let me avoid the bus. And she decides to take a train from the next day onwards. And there in the train, she meets a younger boy, younger in age, Hari. And she wants to treat him like a younger brother. But he says one fine day that he is in love with her. And she keeps going with him all around. She also spends nights with him. There is certainly a kind of physical relationship between them. And whenever they go together, there are many people who watch them, saying, is she the mother? Is she the sister of that boy? And once again, that kind of the consciousness or the conscience immediately, pricks, and she thinks, I should not behave like this. At the same time, she wants to enjoy life. So one fine day, Hari says he wants to take her to Mahabalipuram. And then they spend a night. And the next day, and to go to Mahabalipuram also, she had to tell many lies at home, because she was never allowed to step out of the house. She had to give answers to her mother, to her sister, to her brothers, and they all advised her to take the permission of the two younger brothers when she went out. And she goes to Mahabalipuram, and Hari asks her to have a physical relationship with him, and she agrees, and they spend the night in Mahabalipuram. And when it comes to the question of marriage, Akhila thinks, now, so far so good, let me break away. And she goes on long leave. She doesn't want to have anything else to do with Hari. We feel sympathy, anger, irritation when we come across Akhila's character, but we cannot blame, because her situation is such. Now, let's come to the next character, Prabha Devi, a very pretty woman, affluent, born after 4 boys, father a diamond merchant. And the father was not too very happy when this girl was born, because he thought the girls are a liability, just like any other man, Indian man, or any other Indian. I don't say only men have this feeling. I'm sorry to mention, even women have this feeling. I apologize if I make a very frank statement here. So Prabha Devi is very pretty, I repeat. And then she's married to a richer, she's married into a richer household, once again diamond merchants, and her husband is Jagdish. And she wants to kind of sustain her beautiful look, and she doesn't want to become a mother. She doesn't want to conceive. What a difference. Margaret Shanti wanted to bear children. Husband was against it, because he didn't want her to grow. He didn't want her to grow physically, grow emotionally, grow mentally, grow in society, grow in status, whatever. Complete subjugation at all levels, complete subjugation. And he did not want her to grow long hair also. He says, you look better, much better with a bob cut. And just on the opposite side, here Prabha Devi doesn't want to become a mother. She wants to postpone motherhood. Whereas her in-laws and her husband were, they were in a hurry to have a child and set up a family. And then she has a kind of hidden desire to attract all men around. And when someone does not notice her, she feels so insecure. And she's not happy until and unless they notice them, and then they make advances to her. And once they start making advances to her, does she realize what she has done is wrong. So it is a complicated character. It's once again, just like psyche, we have to say a psychological problem here. Wants to avoid, at the same time wants to attract. But she wants to live her own life. And finally, she thinks swimming is the best alternative for her. And when she swims, she can vent out all her emotions pent up in her body and mind. Now, we come to the most ferocious, most powerful, most effective character, Marikolantu. She belongs to a lower strata of society. Rather, she says lower caste. The author says lower caste. And Marikolantu is something like what we say, we can say it's something akin to a fragrant kind of plant, which we call maruvam or lavender in English. Kind of, not exactly. Something belongs to the same family, I suppose. And then she is called Mari. So Marikolantu, is uneducated. She cannot speak in English. All the other women share their stories, and when they start talking about in the ladies' coupe, she sits in a corner and then she doesn't butt into their conversation. And she feels humiliated also. There is a complex in her. And because of that, probably she subjects herself to emotional and also physical torment and physical exploitation. But she proves that women can be strong. And hers is a very pathetic character. And then, she works as a helper in one family's house. And then later on, she works in Chettiar's household. And Chettiar's wife is a mad woman. She's been asked to take care of her. And she's been asked to take care of the baby in the house also. And Chettiar's second son is Sridhar. And second daughter-in-law is Sujata, whom she calls Sujata Akka and Sridhar Anna. And this Sridhar Anna goes behind all the women in the town, and Sujata knows pretty well about it. And even Chettiar, that is the man, the older man, he has a keep. Maybe because of that, the proper wife has gone mad, they say. She loses her sanity. Now Sridhar Anna is after women, and then Sujata Akka feels all alone in the house, watching movies. And Marikolantu, because she's been given many gifts by Sujata Akka, feels so sorry for her. She wants to be of some kind of help to her. She wants to be the sister to the real thing. She wants to substitute Sridhar. Because when Sridhar comes and have a relationship with his wife, it's only very matter of fact, and Sujata is always left not satisfied. And everything is done in the most business-like commercial way. And now Marikolantu knows about it, and she wants to take the place of Sridhar in bed to Sujata. So we can say there is a lesbian element here. And Sujata Akka enjoys the company of Marikolantu. And very ironically here, I don't know, sometimes, I'm not in a position to understand Marikolantu's foolishness. She does not want Sridhar to go behind women in the town, and she wants to be that every woman herself by being in bed with him too. So afternoons with Sujata Akka and nights with Sridhar Anna. And finally, this is out. Sujata Akka knows about it, and she does not want Marikolantu to stay in the house any longer. and she throws her out and sends her away. Now she goes to a place where Sujata Akka's relatives are there. There are two foreigners. One is a doctor, Missy K. Both of them are unmarried, Missy K and Missy V. We are not given their full names. We are simply given K and V. And they also have, there is a suggestion that there is some kind of relationship between them also, because once again, maybe this kind of female attraction comes up. And there, Marikolantu is not able to understand what is happening to her. Mari's story is very tragic. And there is another twist in her story. On the day of Bhogi, when she was on her way to Chettiar's household, on the way, she's been caught by Chettiar's relatives, Sujata Akka's relative, Murugesan, and then she was molested. She was raped in spite of a protest. She couldn't do anything. She was victimized. And then she comes and shares this with, for a long time, it remains, kind of hidden till she becomes pregnant. Her mother knows about it. And she tells Sujata what happened, but no one believes naturally, because they think, why should a person from a rich family want to go and rape a person from a lower strata of society? Or why does he want to marry her? These are the questions. So once again, she was caught up in a very complex situation. And then she was sent to another place. They tried in many ways to abort the child, but the child was too strong, too adamant to be aborted. And finally, he was out into the world. And Marikolantu did not even want to see the child. She was so vengeful about the child. What did the child do? The child born of an unwed mother. What did he do? What sin did he commit? So the mother looked after the child. He was named Muttu, Pearl, Mutyam, which was never seen by the mother. And then Marikolantu developed some kind of tumor in her womb, and she had to undergo a surgery for which she wanted money. 5,000 rupees she wanted. How would she get it? Then she thought, all right, I will engage my son Muthu in the looms of the person who raped her, that is the father, the biological father of the child. Neither the father nor the child know that they are father and son. So Muthu, the poor boy, the poor child, has been engaged as a child laborer in the looms of Murugesan, who was very rich by that time. And he died also. Murugesan was already ailing and he died. And there was a funeral procession, and finally the body was taken to the crematorium, the cremation grounds, and they tried all ways in order to burn the body, but the body would not burn. They brought more and more firewood. They brought more and more fuel. The body was not burning. Then finally, Muthu was standing at a distance and he was watching the whole thing. And the undertaker asked Muthu to come and make the body burn by putting more firewood. And as fate had it, as destiny had it, as God's willed it, when the son went and adjusted firewood to the father's body, the body started burning completely. And Marikolantu was watching the whole show. She took pity on the child. The child who did not know that it was his father whom he was lighting the funeral pyre for. And the child who was too young to do all these things and who became a victim to her own apathy, she never showed any kind of motherhood to him, any kind of motherly instincts to him. She took pity on him. And from that day onwards, she accepted him as her child. Now we come to the next character. All this we will see in our slides now. When I project these slides, we can quickly have a look at them. The next character is Sheila Vasudevan. As I mentioned earlier, she is the youngest of the passengers in the ladies' coupe, a 14-year-old girl doing her 9th standard. And then she has two grandmothers. One is father's mother, second one is mother's mother. Father's mother is Achama, a very quiet lady, very stereotypical Indian grandmother. Whereas mother's mother, whom she called Ammumma, was a very dynamic lady and was very, very meticulous about her appearance, about her presentation of herself. And she was a dominant woman, an assertive woman. And unfortunately, she too had a growth in her body and she was about to die. And Sheila took all the care to see that her grandmother looked how she wanted to look even when she was about to die. Here, two characters, one young in age, one old in age, are portrayed, and both are well portrayed by Anita Nair. And one more issue that has been brought out into this Sheila episode is child abuse. When Sheila goes to her friend's house, her friend's father, Hasina's father, Naza, touches her inappropriately. 2-3 times it happens. And she feels very self-conscious. We know very well, even the other two women, that is Hasina herself and Hasina's mother, they also observe what is happening, but they do not say anything to the father. So this is another issue which comes out very furtively from this. And apart from all this, so we have seen all the 6 main characters now. One is Akhila herself. Second one is Janaki Prabhakar. Margaret Shanti. Fourth one is Prabhadevi. Fifth one is Marikolantu. And the 6th, Sheila Vasudevan. Now let's see the themes. Among all these characters, the main theme is self-discovery from the subjugation of Indian male-dominated society. Of course, patriarchy exists not only in India, but in many places. And women are coming out as empowered women. And now we realize that they need not be a dichotomy, and they are not two different entities. They are complementary. They supplement each other. And there is a kind of union between them. They are not two different species. There is a synergy, and they have to work together in order to keep this creation going on happily and in harmony. As a woman writer, Anita Nair goes deep into the inner mind of the depressed women by virtue of their feminine sensibility and psychological insight, and brings to light their issues, which are the outcome of Indian women's psyche and emotional inequalities in male-dominated society. Many questions are raised. Living under oppressive patriarchal systems, of course, even now these happen. Even now we see numerous incidents of domestic violence, of sexual inequality, of gender discrimination, of amniocentesis to determine the gender of the child, and the role of the wives and mothers, just like, doormats. Is it limited only, is a woman's role limited only to reproduction, regardless of her own desires and needs? Now, Akhila, we have seen in detail about Akhila's story. And so to have a quick glimpse at her, we can say she's a Hindu Brahmin, unmarried lady, 45 years old, does what is expected of her to do, doesn't have an identity of her own, and she's an organized person and always lived for her family. She lived in Madras, and she takes a trip by train to Kanyakumari and has an affair with Hari. All these I told you. And uh, she goes to Kanyakumari. Here there is symbolism, which we'll see at the end of the novel also. Kanyakumari, Kanyakumari, we know, unmarried. And she chooses to go to that place, the end of the land, where two female seas meet a dominant male ocean. Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal join the Indian Ocean. And about her parents, father married his own niece. He was 24 and she was 15. And lot of love devotion between them. We have already seen their family, Narsi, Narayana, and one younger sister, Padma. And father's death makes her breadwinner 19 at 19, and unfulfilled desires. And then all this we have seen in the plot. She's always been addressed as Chandra's daughter, Narayana's akka, Priya's aunt, Murthi's sister-in-law, Ammadi, etc. So now we have seen the other characters also. Now let's go to all these. I think because we have many other things to see, I'm skipping through all this because I've told you whatever happened. Janaki Prabhakar, she says, I'm a woman who has always been looked after. And then Margaret Shanti we have seen. And then we have also heard about Prabhadevi and Marikolantu. So Marikolantu, the most powerful character. And then Sheila Vasudevan. And then there is another character, Karpagam. Actually, she's a minor character who was Akhila's friend, a widow. But she doesn't want to look like a widow. She has the courage to wear kumkum and colorful clothes and all that. And Akhila takes a lot of courage from her. And then other small characters are Catherine, Haris, Akhila's affair, Ebenezer, all these things, very minor characters. And here, let's see how Anita Nair talks about her characterization.
I spent more time thinking up names for my characters than I did for my son. Hi, I'm Anita Nair and I'm on Tweak India. I'm going to be talking about the process of creating a memorable character. The first thing to know, of course, is who is your character? Where does your character come from? How old is the character? What does he or she look like? Every little detail. So what I tell the writers I mentor is that write a biodata for this character. Every little detail goes into like date of birth, dress, schooling, if there is schooling, college, if there is college, hobbies. That's the first place where you find out if there is a mismatch between the character that you need to create and the character.
So with this, we understand that Anita Nair has been very, very meticulous about the choice of her characters and about the naming of the characters. And it's a lengthy video and we do not have enough time to go through this. You can access it on the YouTube. And language used is beautiful. It is poetic, especially Margaret has an element of poetry in her. And there's a lot of sense of humor. And Anita Nair has been sarcastic when she brings out all the societal issues. And it's been very, very profound, appropriate, and carefully chosen. And what are the themes? Travel towards empowerment, realization of being subjugated, identity crisis, gender discrimination. I told you Prabhadevi's father was not too happy when the mother gave birth to a girl baby. And then child abuse. Child abuse in two cases. One is Muthu and the second one is we have in Sheila Vasudevan. And lesbianism, patriarchy, quest for freedom, foul practices in government offices. Akhila's father works in, he worked in the income tax department where there was a tradition of taking bribes, which he resisted. And there was a suspicion that because of that, he was tormented and he was driven to commit a suicide. From suppression to self-expression and children becoming victims because of unwed mothers. And what is the symbolism? Ladies Coupe. Coupe. A coupe is an enclosure. Women are always enclosed. And Kanyakumari, unmarried deity reflecting Akhila. Two feminine seas meeting a dominant male ocean. 11 chapters. Akhilandeshwari, primordial power, Shakti, open-ended for independent interpretations. Now, relevance, it's a perennial issue, and women have to take a stand. As I've already said, men and women complement and enhance each other's personality. And it's Vijayadashmi today, and inner conflicts in women have to be resolved. I just want to read these two passages before I close. She wants to go to Kanyakumari, go somewhere, land's end, perhaps Kanyakumari. At Kanyakumari, the three seas meet, the Bay of Bengal, the Indian Ocean, and the Arabian Sea, a quiet male ocean flanked by two restless female seas. Akila had heard of how it was at Kanyakumari only when it was called Cape Comorin. Vivekananda flung himself into the churning waters and the salts of the three seas and swam to a rock upon which he sat resolutely, waiting for the answers that had eluded him all his life. She had read that at Kanyakumari, the goddess, like her, had put her life on hold, and that the beach there was made up of multicolored sand, the fossilized remnants of a wedding feast that was never served or eaten. So, names of characters, all these characters have been chosen very, very carefully. Now, Akhila is lust, Akhila is Shakti, Akhila is Akhilandeshwari, decimated into 10 entities, Kali, ready to destroy all that comes between her and the flow of time. Tara, with the golden embryo from which a new universe will evolve, she'll be her own void and infinity. Shodasi, fullness at 16, nurturing dreams and hopes even now at 45. Bhuvaneshwari, the forces of the material world surge within her. Bhairavi, seeking to find ways and means to fulfill her desires before all is null and void. Chinnamasta, the naked one, continuing the state of self-sustenance in the created world, making possible destruction and renewal in a cyclic order. Dhumati, misfortune personified, an old hag riding an ass with a broom in one hand and a crow on her banner. Bagala, the crane-headed one, an ugly side of all living creatures, jealousy, hatred, cruelty. She's all this and more. Matangi, seeking to dominate. And then there is Kamala, pure consciousness of the self, bestowing boons and delaying figures. The Akhila, her family knew. This is who Akhila is, together and separate. And finally, she ends the novel by saying that she makes a phone call to Hari. We do not know. Hari has finally lifted the phone, and that's an open-ended conclusion. We do not know what Hari said and what she said, and it's left to our interpretation. Now, it's been a decade since Ladies Coupe has been written, and there is a quick interview here.
Well, it's been 10 years since the publication of Anita Nair's Ladies Coupe with a special 10th anniversary edition out, and the author herself joins us. Anita, 10 years on, when you look back at that book, do you recognize yourself? Do you recognize the book, or would you have done it differently now?
I don't think I would have done it differently. It still would be the same book. Because even now, when I look at it and read parts of it, it still seems very relevant to me, and not just as a book, but also as the kind of person I was when I wrote that book.
So it's still you there. Sometimes we look back at it.
So that shows that Anita Nair still sticks to her guns, and she says it is still relevant. Now, of course, it is perennially relevant. Now, I want to conclude the talk by Anita Nair's advice to young writers, for which this program is mainly meant. Let's listen to what she says.
So my advice to young writers, I have 3 pieces of advice. 1, write. Don't talk about it, because a book will not get written on its own. You need to treat it very seriously. And I always tell them that write at least 400 words a day. 400 words is just a page. And if you can write a page every day, then you're going to be able to get into the discipline of writing on a daily basis. The second piece of advice is that be honest about what you're writing. Write like yourself, and don't write like another person, because what you bring into your writing is your own unique perspective, and that's what you need to put in. And third point is that read as widely as possible, because reading is what is going to open up your mind and, create stories.
So, with this, let's say that all women have their problems, they have their issues. Some issues are common, whereas some issues are specific. And then it is up to us to realize that it is
Thank
we
you, madam.
who
Thank
have
you,
to take a
Madam
stand.
Dr. K. Sandhya, for taking us on a journey of this novel, Ladies Coupe by Anita Nair. With your review, Ladies Coupe is brought out as a wonderfully atmospheric, deliciously warm novel. You have taken us into the heart of women's lives in contemporary India, revealing how the dilemmas that women face in their relationships with husbands, mothers, friends, employers, and children are the same world over. An apt novel reviewed on this day of Vijayadashami, a triumphant victory of goddess Durga over the evil. And this book review reminds us that women, be it of any face, color, race, religion, or caste, as or their roles they play in their daily life, have the feminine power, dignity, and freedom. So on behalf of AP State Council of Higher Education, I express our gratitude to Dr. K. Sandhya for being the big book reviewer for today's Talk the book review. And I thank all the viewers for taking their time out on this festival day. And thank you very much. Let us meet next Friday with a Telugu book review. Till then, stay safe, stay safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you.